Today, I'm thinking about the Ship of Theseus problem. Now, I don't know about most of you, but I had not heard of this until it was referenced on the very first TV show launched by Marvel on Disney+, WandaVision. In the show, the character of Vision encounters what he considers to be a perfect clone of himself, and he confronts him with the Ship of Theseus problem. Since then, I've seen the problem referenced in so many memes, videos, really any social media posts. If you haven't seen the show, then don't worry. I was only explaining how I originally became aware of the problem, and it's not relevant at all. Also, it's not a central theme of the show, so don't feel like you need to watch it to understand the video. And to be honest with you guys, I really didn't enjoy the show that much, so I'm not going to recommend it to you. In this video, I'm going to explain the origins of the problem, give an overall explanation to it, and attempt to provide an answer to it. Firstly though, I'm going to explain who Theseus was. Although this isn't completely relevant to answering the overall problem, I find Greek myths incredibly interesting and think it's useful to broaden your knowledge and gain some context to this question. If you already know who Theseus is and don't want to listen to this part of the video, then you can skip to the timestamp I'm putting on the screen now. Theseus was an ancient hero of Greece, considered to have great lineage. His mother was called Pythias and was married to the king of Athens, who was known as Aegeus. Although these were the parents who raised him, his parenthood is seen as dubious, as his mother was said to have had an encounter with the god of the sea, Poseidon, close to the time of his conception. I personally like to think of Poseidon as his biological father, due to Theseus's superhuman strength and abilities, and then I think of Aegeus as the father who raised him, a king of one of the strongest cities to ever stand, who handed down great intellect and wit to Theseus. These factors crafted Theseus into the great hero he became in legend and mythos. As a young man, Theseus left Athens to prove his strength on many great adventures. He slayed Sinis, who was known as the Pine Bender, so called because he would tie his victims between two pine trees and tear them completely in half. On his return to Athens, Theseus found his father married and under the spell of the vile sorceress Medea. With his great wit, he managed to outsmart and best Medea, saving his father and returning him to power on the throne of Athens. Despite these heralded adventures, Theseus is best known for his most daring and toughest feat, travelling to Crete to face the fearsome and cruel King Minos, and delving into his labyrinth to slay his son, the half-man and half-bull known as the Minotaur. The labyrinth itself was created by the inventor Daedalus, who you most likely have heard of from the tale of Icarus, who flew too close to the sun. Icarus was the nephew of Daedalus, and they used the wings to escape the labyrinth where they were held hostage by Minos after building it for him. The reason Theseus decided to travel to Crete was because Minos had decreed unless Athens sent 7 boys and 7 girls to enter the labyrinth each year, he would lay waste to Athens in a brutal war. Theseus disguised himself as one of the youths being sent to the labyrinth and set off with a black sail, promising his father that if he was successful, he would return flying a white sail. When arriving in Crete, all members of the crew were disarmed, but the ever-resourceful Theseus managed to keep his sword concealed, knowing it would be absolutely necessary if he was to beat the Minotaur in single combat. While staying the night in Minos' palace before entering the labyrinth, the daughter of Minos, who was called Ariadne, instantly fell in love with the demigod. Distraught with the idea of Theseus perishing to the beast, Ariadne asked for help from the inventor Daedalus on how she could help him succeed. Daedalus himself, being a prisoner, was happy to help and embarrass the monarchical king Minos. He provided Ariadne with the location of the Minotaur within the labyrinth and a ball of string so Theseus could find his way out once he killed it. Once inside the labyrinth, Theseus tied the ball of string to the entrance and produced his sword. He recalled the instructions that Ariadne gave him, to go straight down, never left, never right. Quickly finding the Minotaur at the centre of the labyrinth, Theseus engaged him in a battle to the death. The hulking frame and bullish strength of the Minotaur made a difficult challenge for our hero. But the beast had only ever faced the small boys and girls of Athens while they were unarmed, and didn't stand a chance against a demigod of Theseus's caliber. Eventually he ended the battle with a vicious jab to the throat, took the head of the Minotaur as a prize and proof of his victory. He used the string to return to the entrance of the labyrinth, and took the boys and girls who entered with him out as well. His escape of Crete was made easy by a lack of guards, as it was never expected that anyone would ever escape the wrath of the Minotaur. Knowing her betrayal would be discovered, Ariadne also fled her father and joined Theseus's crew as they fled the island. On their way back, the crew stopped at the island of Naxos to celebrate their great victory. Theseus abandoned Ariadne on the island. While cruel, he did not love her, and knew keeping the daughter of a powerful king would only encourage war. Ariadne chose to help Theseus, and he did her the favour of helping her escape her father, for Minos surely would have killed her once learning of her deceit. In a way, I understand Theseus's reason for abandoning her. He went on this journey as a hero of Athens and to help his father protect his people. He did not join the quest for love and was willing to manipulate whoever necessary to achieve his goal. But he clearly felt guilty and understood she could not stay on Crete, so he took Ariadne with him. Whichever way you look at it, Ariadne was eventually found on the island by the god Dionysus. So perhaps it worked out for her. Why settle for a demigod when a god will love you? However, Theseus basked in his glory too much, and in his hubris forgot to change his sail from black to white. When the ship became visible from the coastline of Athens, his father became distraught. He leaped from the cliffs of Athens out of despair and died from the fall. This taught Theseus a valuable but painful lesson. Never celebrate too early. Always pay attention. Your mission is not complete until you have finished it. After this, the ship that was used in the fabled voyage was kept in the harbour of Athens as a reminder of the journey of the great Theseus. I hope you enjoyed this overview of the story of Theseus. Feel free to look up more of his deeds before continuing this video if you're interested. This is where we enter the core section of the video. What is the Ship of Theseus problem, and how do we solve it? The problem was initially proposed by Plutarch, the ancient Greek philosopher, in one of his writings named The Life of Theseus. The problem goes that while the Athenians preserved the Ship of Theseus for centuries, every time the planks on the ship rotted, they replaced them with fresh planks. Therefore, it's unclear if any of the original ship remained after a long time. So the problem is whether the ship can be considered to be the same one that Theseus sailed on all those years ago. Another Greek philosopher, Heraclitus, attempted to solve the puzzle by comparing it to a section of a river where water flows through constantly. His famous quote used is, "No man ever steps in the same river twice, for it is not the same river, and he is not the same man." So it would seem that it is not the same ship from this perspective. Aristotle proposes a different solution, suggesting that there are 4 causes to describe a thing, and these can be analysed to create a solution for this problem. The first cause is known as the formal cause. It is the design of a thing. So as long as the design remains the same, it is still the same ship. Another cause is the material cause, which is the material a thing is made of. As long as the materials used remain the same, then it is the same ship. It is just refreshed. The third cause is the efficient cause, which focuses on how a thing was made. If the same tools are used for its repair as was used for its initial construction, then it is the same ship. The final cause is called just that, the final cause. This is the intended purpose of a thing. The Ship of Theseus was initially used for the mythical figure of Theseus to inspire Athenians, and it is still used for centuries to come to inspire Athenians, so its intended purpose remains the same. Therefore, according to this cause, it is still the same ship. Aristotle goes on to argue that the reason Heraclitus' argument is false is because he is using a river as an example. As the water flows over time, and the water comes from different places, then the argument fails at the material cause, so of course it cannot be considered to be the same thing. The Ship of Theseus in comparison is likely repaired using wood from the same forest over the centuries that the initial wood gathered for the ship would have been taken from, so the ship does not fail at this cause like the river does, so the ship remains the Ship of Theseus. So the actual thing that you are centering the argument around matters. Aristotle's overall argument is both valid and sound. However, it has a strong reliance on the formal cause, as Aristotle believes this takes priority over all other causes. His formal cause refers to a thing, not as a descriptor, but as a form of identity. Aristotle's argument also struggles when faced with an argument such as when two different ships, which are identical at conception, go through different lifespans. When two ships are made at the exact same time and are completely identical, then they should be considered to have the same formal cause and therefore be the same ship. But if one ship sank in battle, it cannot be considered to be the same ship anymore, as one is torn apart and rots on the ocean floor, while the other floats peacefully in the harbour. Therefore, the reliance on the formal cause by Aristotle is flawed. When discussing if something is the same, we need to think very clearly about what definition of same that we use is. Whether a thing is qualitatively identical or quantitatively identical needs to be considered. For example, if you consider two marbles that look completely identical, they are still two separate marbles. You can gather that they are qualitatively identical, as they look the exact same, but not numerically identical, as a marble can only be numerically identical to itself. So in the Ship of Theseus problem, you need to know what the definition of same is to create a definitive answer to the problem. A philosopher known as Ted Sider proposed that if you consider objects to extend across time as four-dimensional causal series of three-dimensional time slices, you might be able to solve the Ship of Theseus problem. This is as long as each time slice and all four-dimensional objects remain numerically identical while allowing it to differ from each other. If we use this to explain the stepping into the same river twice, it seems a bit simpler. If you only focus on the 3D, which is the individual time slices, then they are different. But if you consider all time slices, which is 4D, then overall it is the same river. The river as a whole remains the same. The snapshots of 3D create a single unifying 4D thing. The philosopher Thomas Hobbes wondered that if you used the discarded and rotten planks taken from the original Ship of Theseus and used it to create a new ship, would this new second ship still be the Ship of Theseus? Or neither? Or both? His theory of transitivity states that if A equals B and B equals C, that means that A must equal C. In this, example A is the original Ship of Theseus that went on the journey to Crete. The ship with the new planks is B, and the ship created from the discarded planks is C. However, this doesn't make sense, as the two different ships in the harbour are still different, the fixed and the reconstructed. So Thomas Hobbes believes that no clear answer to the problem can be drawn, only that both are the true ship and neither are the true ship. This brings us back to the start of our video, where both visions meet and consider the Ship of Theseus problem. They conclude that they are both the true vision and are both the false vision. As a conclusion, it's clear that there is no single answer to the Ship of Theseus problem. Instead, there are many different perspectives, which each show a different way of how we consider identity. Some say it is the same ship because its form and purpose remained the same. Others say it is a completely new ship because its materials have been replaced piece by piece. Thomas Hobbes suggests that the problem is a paradox and thus unsolvable, that both are the true ship and yet neither fully are. Overall, this problem becomes a question of how we consider identity. It clearly isn't black or white and cannot be applied to anything en masse. Context, criteria, and point of view need to be considered. However, if you don't think identity matters and you only focus on materials, then it becomes quite simple. If we only care about form, function, or history, then it could be considered to be the same, given the right context. If you are like Ted Sider and can only see the ship as a single continuous object that goes through many changing phases, then you could see this ship as having never changed. Ultimately, the Ship of Theseus problem invites us to question what we really mean when we say something is the same or different. It shows identity is not a fixed or absolute, but instead a complex blend of properties and perspectives. Our understanding of this problem will only evolve over time. The more we learn, the more the answer will become clear. I personally think that there is never going to be a set answer to this question. If faced with a paradox like this in your own life, you must consider the relevant factors and form your own answer as each situation sees fit.